What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Jump to Start Racing program. I'm here with two acquaintances, two guys I met off the street. Ruben. Yeah. Ruben, say hello.
What's going on, guys?
Yeah, and see?
Who are you?
Yeah, exactly. What's up?
Hi.
Do you like Formula One? Guys, on today's episode, we'll recap the British Grand Prix weekend, and including sprint races, including the incident, quote unquote, the incident. But before we get into that, I want to ask my two guys here. How was your weekend, Ruben? How was your weekend?
It was short.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. Good talk.
How was your weekend, Yancy?
Good talk.
I got burnt.
Wah.
Good way, baby.
There you go.
Went down to sunny Florida, chill with my good friends, including you, Wellington.
And an acquaintance, me.
And an acquaintance.
That picked up the street.
This is why we're recording late today. Today's Wednesday. We usually record on a Monday right after the race. So, and my phone is on. But yeah, I had a great weekend. I had a really good weekend, man. Shout out to Steven, who showed us a great time down in Tampa.
Anthony as well.
And Anthony as well, down in sunny Florida. I can't wait for Miami after that, man. To go down see F1 in Miami. Woo! I can't wait.
Oh, man.
It's
What
gonna
an
be so
S
much
show
fun.
that's going to be.
Yes, sir.
All right, so
So what was your highlight on the weekend?
the flight back.
Welcome back to New York.
Because you couldn't remember the whole weekend?
Well, we were talking about that. Had a little too much, let's call it a little too much sun on Saturday.
Yeah.
We sat down and we went to this place. It's called The Getaway in Tampa. All of our friends, including Yancy, sat down at another table, and I don't know what happened. I was like in another dimension, you would say. And I sat down at the bar. I had a meal by myself. I'm like, where are these guys?
The man was sitting at the table.
I was cooked.
So he ordered
by the sun. It was too much sun.
He ordered on his own and
No, he
everything?
was ordering on his own. He was just drinking.
It was just too much
I don't
sun.
think it was water, though. It was something else in that, or fire water.
Gotcha.
And he was just, eating fried shrimp.
It was lemonade, okay?
Yeah, I'm sure.
So, guys,
But
Happy lemonade.
he was zoned out. I mean, that sun gets to you, man.
follow us on our socials at Jump to Start F1 on Twitter and also at Jump to Start F1 on Instagram. We are across many podcast platforms: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart Radio, TuneIn, Stitcher, etc. And we're also on YouTube. Hello. If you've seen more than one of our videos, please hit the subscribe button, drop a thumbs up, and leave a comment. Would love to interact with you. Gentlemen, let's get into it. Our race weekend recap. Ruben.
Gentlemen, short view back to the
Yo,
past.
we're supposed to be out of it. Not you. We are.
Okay, let's do it again. Go
Gentlemen,
ahead.
short view back to the past.
Man. Guys, thoughts on the...
Wellington doesn't continue, though.
No, because I haven't memorized it yet. Thoughts on the new race weekend format. So by new, I mean what happened this past weekend, not going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Practice, qualifying, practice, sprint race qualifying, sprint qualifying, sorry.
It's not a race.
Exactly. Sprint qualifying, can't say that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the race on Sunday. Thoughts on the format?
I liked it. Because as we saw, you get very different results coming out of qualifying than you do in the sprint race. Obviously, qualifying is fun because you get to see these cars go balls to the wall, all out, driving on the track, and you're watching the timing sheets, and you just want to know, who went faster, if Max is going to beat Lewis, or if Lewis is going to beat Max's sector times, and that's cool. But then you get a chance to kind of redo it again. And just how you saw Lewis, put in an awesome lap to beat Max to the line in qualifying. You also saw that you can get a second crack at it in order for you to be at a top in a better position in the race. You see Max beat Lewis off the line, and Lewis had a terrible start.
This is in sprint qualifying.
Sprint qualifying. I'm just going not throughout the weekend where you see Max moves up one spot and he starts at the front of the race. But you also saw Fernando Alonso had a great start during the race, during the sprint race or sprint qualifying, and he was able to move up
I'm
2 or 3 spots.
Like what you're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like you have qualifying, but then you have a redemption to get in a better position for the main event on Sunday. I thought it was awesome because it's not all straightforward.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of things in the air. I think that once we do the other 2 more times that they're going to do it, going forward after that, all of the kinks might get fixed that that they would like to get ironed out, and it might work. I mean, this weekend was different because it's the first time doing it, so we were all. I mean, at least I was on a waiting game. Okay, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? Like FP2 again. Who the hell watched that? Because they couldn't do changes to the car. They couldn't do much because the cars were already set for the actual race. So I see probably sometime in the future they're probably just going to give away from FP2 because they can't do much. Because remember, they qualified the day before.
Right, so they're already in park for May.
Exactly. So they couldn't do much in it. So.
And you have less track running time, so you have less data. So if your setup goes wrong, you're going to know during the sprint qualifying your setup is wrong, but you can't really do much to change it for the race. Yeah, so, obviously I'm a big fan of less data because they don't, it kind of puts you in a position where it's up to more the driver if we want to get the car anywhere. It's not up to the engineers. If you leave it up to the engineers, you give them enough time, then they're just going to
get fired.
You're just going to put up a boring race.
Optimize.
Yeah.
So putting it...
That's not what we want.
The second practice being in park for May, kind of was... for some reason, I didn't think of that. So it was... They essentially had one practice section, and that...
On Friday.
Yeah. To be able to get all the data that they needed, etc. And that kind of, to me, it only really worked because it's Silverstone, and they have so much data on this track, and it goes back, obviously, for so long. Would that work, for example, if they go back to Turkey? Would that work if they go to Coda? Like, I don't know. Like, it worked as the one-off, but we'll have to see going forward where this whole thing ends up.
I think you also have to account for that if you have a lot of movement going around in the sprint, from the sprint race to the race, as compared to where you qualified, if there's closer racing, just as the newer cars, which we saw this weekend as well, is designed to do to race closer, you might get more cars overtaking and starting in a better position for the race. So it mixes up the grid even more.
So pretty much
I think there was some element of that, but it's not going to be fully integrated. You're not going to see it fully because obviously it's, as we saw as the sprint race went on, not that it was the most fun sprint race, because once everybody got settled into their positions, they pretty much stayed there, unless somebody spins out like a Vettel, or I think the Perez was the bigger the headline coming out of that sprint race.
Yeah, for example, this style of weekend, I don't think it's going to be a norm. They're probably going to just keep doing it the same way they did this year. They probably just maybe either stay to 3 or add a few more.
Okay, it'll be track specific. It'll be at the tracks where you can historically, you have enough where the track is wide enough and you can overtake.
Okay, but then if I'm Red Bull, if I'm Mercedes, I protest what track these are at, because why don't they do it at Hungaroring, the track that I'm better at? Why don't they do it wherever?
Yeah, that's that. So it could be maybe like a toss-up.
So bring it on. It'll make it more interesting for us.
Exactly. So maybe this year they'll do certain tracks, next year they'll do certain tracks. So maybe a lottery thing. Just pick it out or we're going to have it in this track.
So was it a success?
I think so. I think if you just look at where some people started, where some people finished in the race, or, some people qualified and then started in the sprint race and then started during the race, especially down in the midfield where it's less predictable. If you look at that graphic,
the real action was happening.
Yeah, where F1 put up a driver movement graphic where what you sent to us, Ruben, you'll see a lot of lines crisscrossing. So, for example, you see Fernando Alonso, qualifying 11th but starting 7th in the sprint race and ultimately finishing 7th in the race. You see Perez, starting, basically he didn't finish the sprint race and finished in 16th, which considering what happened in lap 1 of the Grand Prix,
race, yeah.
It would have been nice if Paris would have been up top to pick up the scraps just like he did in Baku when Max crashed out. So there was a lot of different things like that. Like it's less predictable, I would say, and that's what we want.
What did you think, Ruben?
No, it was pretty much similar to what Yancy was saying. It was a success because I was the first, all the amp that was behind it and the way it played out. What he mentioned, just like the way Fernando Alonso's sprint race went about, like things like that is what we're looking for. We're looking for back and forth action, like and it showed. Like for example, when Lewis Hamilton had a horrible start, Max overtook him. So, and it brings another take on different aspect of what could happen, in the spring and lead up to the race. If you make the slightest mistake in the sprint, now it's going to really affect you in the GP. So,
I think it was also a success as far as just fan interest. Like you guys said, it's less predictable. It's more entertaining. That's going to put, ultimately, when we talked about this last year, when it was, being rumored and reported, we talked about it as something that's going to get people to the track on 2 days, a little more, on 3 days with the qualifying, sprint qualifying, and the race, generate more revenue, make it more sustainable for some of the tracks that have had a history of not being able to put the product on track as regularly. You think of the Nürburgring and all the other places. F1's keeping it around, right?
I would hope so. I mean, we'll see how the next two play out, because this could be just a one-off. I mean, like I said, you didn't get much movement as far as the results. You got some. But I think it does. The drivers enjoyed it because they obviously don't like practice. They'd rather be racing.
Practice.
Leclerc said something to that effect, that he enjoyed it a lot because instead of sitting around for like an hour and a half session and doing tests and stuff, you actually get to drive the car in anger on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I mean, if the drivers are enjoying it, that means that they're putting on a good show, because at the end of the day, they're the ones that put on the show.
I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
The sprint race itself. What were some? Well, just the sprint race itself. We saw obviously Hamilton qualified in pole position. Max second, Bottas third, and we saw that trio kind of take off at the start of the sprint race. We saw Max overtake Hamilton and then kind of just disappear into the distance at the Maggots and Beckett's complex after the cops.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of all she wrote for at least the front, right?
Yeah.
Well,
That's where I lost all my hope.
During that sprint race, we saw that the winner of the race had to be the person that made it through cops first, because
fastest.
Yeah, fastest, because Mercedes, even though during that first part of the lap, Red Bull was faster, when they started going down the Wellington Straight. Whoever came out ahead on that, because Mercedes was actually faster on that straight because they had trimmed the car down better aerodynamically.
In the sprint, in cops, was Hamilton on the outside?
In the sprint race?
No, he actually was.
He was on the outside.
Yes.
He was on the outside.
And he couldn't take it.
Yeah, but it also wasn't that close because Max had already.
No, it wasn't as close actually. No,
Yeah.
what I'm talking about is just.
But I think Hamilton saw that he wasn't going to be able to overtake Max on the outside. He knew
that's why
the best way would be on the inside, and he ultimately showed it. Not only, and we'll talk about that incident. Not only during the first lap against Max, but when he ultimately overtook Leclerc for the lead, he did it at Cops on the inside. And I think he overtook Lando there on the inside as well. Because Lando, who was it? Lando that was running third? When he overtook Lando?
I don't recall.
Yeah, he overtook Lando, and then Bottas let him by.
Yes,
Yeah.
after he pitted.
He overtook Lando, Bottas let him, and then he overtook Leclerc.
But on
Those two overtakes, Lando and Leclerc, were at Cops on the inside.
But on the actual sprint race, come on, like, would you want to have a better start than Alonso did? Like, jeez.
Can you describe what happened?
No, Alonso was, I believe, 7th, or 8th.
He started
on the sprint.
He started 11th.
In the sprint race, he started
And by
11th.
pretty much before the first lap was over, he was 5th.
Yeah.
Obviously, he lost a few places after, but still, like, he just jumped the start.
Oh,
he looked like that.
I like it.
No, but Alonso's always been good at the start, and obviously you gain the most places at the start of a race.
Course.
Yeah.
So
he kept he catch everybody sleeping, or I don't know. Did he went full power.
I think it's just experience.
He was also on soft tires versus
Yes.
I think many other drivers were on mediums. Yeah, so that kind of gave him a pop at the start. But I also kind of want to point out who had the better race, who had the better sprint races, right? You saw Daniel Ricciardo, Lando Norris, right? They did well. Fernando Alonso, you saw Kimi Raikkonen had a good. He went from 17th to 13th. Fernando Alonso, we just talked about. You're not locked into the performance of the car. The better the driver, the better you're going to be doing in these sprint qualifying. Is kind of what I saw. You see from the data and
That's
what you
fair.
see, and what you see from the results. The only thing that I really wish is that they would cut down the distance of the sprint qualifying. Just because then it towards the.
But I think
the last third, it was just everybody fell into place. Everybody was like, "All right, we're good."
Well, because now it becomes a tire issue. Then after that, if everybody doesn't.
Well, and then
But I get what you're saying. Like, so they could just go all out the whole time.
I think it's fair, but what's also, I mean, and we did touch upon that last week, and I think if we make it a little bit shorter, it'll probably be better. Just because obviously the longer the race goes, then people are able to pull out more of a gap, as we see that throughout any Grand Prix.
No, I think it becomes then tire management. That's what it became. That's why towards the end, everybody.
Well, yeah, but that's the whole point.
Like, you know, hey, I can't be that aggressive anymore. I could either settle for what I have already now, try to get more, kill my tires, and still go back, and not lose more.
But that's why. That's why those gaps.
And I think that's what happened to Alonso, why he lost 2 more spots.
Yeah, that's why the gap opens up, because now you're getting into fuel management and tire management, and that's what we don't want. We just want a straight out race. But what's also good about the sprint weekend format is that now, usually when we have a regular qualifying on Saturday and a race on Sunday, for Q2 you have to start on the tire that you start Q2 for the sprint race, for the sprint qualifying and the Grand Prix. All the drivers get to choose the tires that they want to start on. Mm-hmm. So it makes it great for strategy, even though everybody went on the same tire except for maybe 2 people, I think. I think everybody went on the mediums to start the race.
Pretty sure, yeah.
So, yeah.
So one other thing I wanted to touch upon, 2 guys that touched upon, George Russell and Carlos Sainz had an incident at the cops' corner where, actually, Yancy, you described it perfectly earlier, where it looked like George Russell almost drove into Carlos Sainz,
right.
Receives a 3-place penalty?
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of foretelling what was going to happen. And it just kind of, the FIA and the stewards have been very consistent about calling driver infractions and penalties. Just, you can't be doing it. Make sure to keep apart, do what you got to do to maintain that distance.
Yeah, I mean, and it was pretty clear that George literally just swooped in on Carlos. So I didn't see any problem with that penalty, to be honest with you. Just looking at the incident.
A little too aggressive from George. He got to learn how to pick his size and pick his times.
Yeah.
That move, he was not. I don't think he was. He wasn't going to be able to.
Yeah, I mean, cops it's a fast corner, so it's tricky. You got to know your braking points, and we'll see. I mean,
and he just shut the car in.
And then, as we saw with Lewis and Max, yeah. If you get it wrong, then you go off.
Okay. Anything else to talk about with regards to the sprint qualifying? So I'll run down the order. We didn't actually run down the order for qualifying. Hamilton first, Verstappen second, Bottas third is what we talked about. Charles Leclerc fourth. I don't know. We'll talk about him later, but I don't know how he keeps doing it. Sergio Perez fifth, Lando Norris sixth, Daniel Ricciardo seventh, George Russell eighth. I forgot to mention.
Mr. Saturday.
Did anybody notice that?
It's the Friday now.
Yeah, Williams put him out there by himself. Like, they waited until everybody was off the track or coming off of the track, and then they put him out there. I was like, holy crap, this is like kind of genius, because now all the traffic's gone. You have the whole track to yourself. The rubber's worn in.
And remember that the Williams is very tricky, because depending on where the wind blows, is literally where that car finishes. So if they put him, what they did was that they put him out there. You have no turbulence from any other cars, any wake from any other cars coming by. It's just up to George Russell to put in a good lap.
And he did.
And he sure did, like he always does. I mean, the guy is consistently outdriving that car.
You know one thing about the actual qualifying that I noticed? Lewis's fastest lap was not the last lap that he did.
It was the first lap.
It has happened already in previous GP, whether it be other drivers.
He lost the car on the last turn.
Have you noticed also?
He actually went into a slide.
He drifted a little.
Yeah. But I think that's up to just the way Silverstone is on the tires. Obviously, you put it for your first run. The tires seem to be more grippier than they are for the second run.
No, so I'm saying
because it's just a lot of tire wear.
It has happened already, not necessarily just with Lewis, but even with other drivers, that their fastest time is actually the first lap that they do instead of the.
That's been history, the whole season.
This season, right?
I can't explain
seem
it.
to be dropping off,
but they go into the pits after their first one and switch tires.
Yeah.
So that's not even a.
I don't know if it's
the track temperature, maybe.
I don't know if also traffic affected too, because remember now when they're doing the second lap, the track is getting overloaded with everybody coming out as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the same thing on the first one.
No, I think because the first one is more strategic and picking when to come out and just more time, and people are coming out for the second lap.
I think it's the same thing.
No, I'm telling you, it has to be something to that effect, because it's getting to the point a lot of times when they're getting ready to do the second fastest lap, and they're barely making the times. Some of these guys are sometimes not even beating the clock to be able to.
This is the case for Detective Rubin.
You know what you should do? We know a tire expert.
Eddie.
Hey,
Eddie.
you go.
Bring Eddie.
Talk to Eddie. Call him up. Anything else to talk? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back to the qualifying results that we didn't finish.
Mm-hmm.
9th was Carlos Sainz after George Russell was 8th, and 10th was Sebastian Vettel. Just doing his thing, Sebastian Vettel. The sprint race results: Hamilton first. I'm sorry, Verstappen first.
Because he won the race.
Because he won the race. Hamilton second, Bottas third, Charles Leclerc fourth. Sergio Perez, we saw him go off the track. That's one thing that we actually didn't mention. Was very unfortunate. Just loses the car.
He lost the car. That's it.
Just loses it. They told him pit before even the end of the sprint race, and
we need to retire the car, I guess.
Yeah, that was it. So Lando Norris 5th, Daniel Ricciardo 6th. This is still the sprint qualifying. 7th was Fernando Alonso. 8th was Vettel. 9th, George Russell. And 10th was Esteban Ocon, Alpine. So
Alpine seemed to be going really well this weekend.
Doing their thing.
Yeah.
Doing their thing.
Alonso's getting his groove.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's exciting to watch him race, man. It's exciting to watch.
I don't know if it's a function. Well, we'll talk about Alonso later. Actually, we have a section for him.
Mm-hmm.
The race itself. I got to tell you guys, up until the crash, that was one of the most exciting first laps I have ever seen in all of my watching Formula One. They were back and forth the whole time. It was.
Yeah, I think the only other one would be at the same track. It would be Bottas and Hamilton. It was a lot of fun to watch when they were going at it. I think it was in 2018. Yeah, but that was by far one of the first lap that was especially at the front, because it was
one of the most 3/4 or a third of a lap that you see.
Yeah, I mean, it was because you get to see a lot of they're going back and forth in the midfield, but you don't see that a lot in the front. It's usually falls in line pretty quickly. Whoever gets the best start.
Yeah, whoever beats pretty much the first corners or starting to pull out.
But as far as wheel to wheel battle, you don't get to see that a lot.
Nice
that was fun.
So I'm at the edge of my seat the whole time. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. I'm going nuts. The geography of Cops or of the track itself, I want to kind of just bring it up somewhere. So you're coming down off of the Wellington Straight, my straight. You're going to Brooklyn's turn, the Luffield turn, and the Woodcote turn, right? From there, you hit a straight. Cops is a high-speed corner.
Right.
The racing line is further into it's not around the outside of that turn, not like very far on the outside. It's more about trying to cut the corner so that you could maintain speed, smallest distance, whatever.
Right.
So the entrance to the turn would be like middle of the track.
And you start, you're on the outside of that straight, and you cut in as tight as you can at Cops, maintaining as much speed as possible until you hit the Beckett's complex and you're doing your thing, right? We see in that corner Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton on the inside. Max Verstappen is ahead. We'll call it has the preferential treatment going into the racing line.
Mm-hmm.
We see
Not by much.
Not by much, but he's ahead, right? So like established norms, right? He's got the preferential treatment. We see Hamilton pops up on the onboard for Verstappen. Verstappen kind of pulls ahead, and then you see Hamilton and Verstappen come together. Verstappen goes off the track. Hamilton continues the race. Obviously, they stopped the race because there was such a crazy impact that they had to repair the barriers.
Yeah. That was 51
Gs.
51 Gs.
51 Gs. Any mere mortal would have.
1 G less than Roman Grosjean's crash in Bahrain. And we saw what happened with that.
Okay.
That was insane.
Well, let's talk about penalty aside. What did we think of the incident? Whose fault is it? Racing incident? What do you guys think?
Ruben?
I think it was a racing incident, but a little more faulty towards Hamilton. But it was still a race incident. So what do you want these guys to do? Like, oh my God, let me fall back because I don't want. These guys got to be aggressive, especially the way they started. You know, like I believe before that they touched before that as well. Before getting to
yeah,
that.
they did. Briefly, they did. Yeah.
They touched briefly before that. So, what do you want these guys to do? Like this is such a tight. You know, the cars are so. The Red Bull car is faster, but they're still like so similar as well when it comes to the actual speed. So it's just tough with these. Hamilton's not going to let all year long Max to beat him on the aggressiveness because Hamilton also has his claws and also has the things that he knows how to do, and he's not going to let Max manhandle him kind of stuff with the car, and Max. He did on the onboards. He did something to the steering wheel. To us, it looks like a long time, but when you're racing, it's not that long. Meaning, when you first see that he jerks the wheel a little bit, I believe that was to cover Hamilton. Then when he goes again, it's actually to take the turn.
Yeah,
it happens like so quick,
milliseconds. Dude.
Exactly. So he goes, turns the wheel a little bit. I believe that was to cover Ham. Maybe in his mind, this guy's not going to be crazy enough to come in like that. Let me just take my turn. Because in his world, I'm ahead by, I don't know, a quarter of a car. But the turn is mine. So
he's got to back out, right?
Yeah. Hamilton got to back out. That's in the area where I blame Hamilton a little bit. But they were so close as far as like when they got to the actual turn or the beginning of the braking zone. They were pretty much neck to neck on that aspect. I believe Max beat him a little more on the braking aspect. He braked less, and that's when he got the winner from.
But remember that.
Or downshifted less, or whatever you want to call it,
When you're on the inside, you have to brake first. Because, so...
But wait, and even that, it's also, I don't think, regardless of where he braked, he had the inside... Hamilton was not going to make that turn.
No, yeah.
Without doing a Rosberg, meaning push him all the way out to the grass.
Yeah, he missed the apex, not by much, but he did miss.
Yeah.
We're talking about Hamilton because he had a little bit of understeer, so he didn't have a car in full control.
So I want to point out, I did the setup the way I did on purpose, right? So Hamilton didn't even take the fastest line through. He missed the apex, had a bit of understeer, so he did not go where he needed to hit for his turn. He was outside. He did not even hit the fastest line.
But the reason why because obviously the fastest line is more on the outside than on the inside. But the reason...
No. You're coming off of the straight. The turn is up here. You're coming off of the straight and it's almost flattened out.
Well,
so you're...
No, you're not. I mean, not all the way on the outside, but I'm saying it has to be more on the... More towards the middle, but not all the way on the outside.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that he was more on the inside than what he should have been.
Yes.
But the reason why he did that is because...
Max pushed him there.
No, wait. Let's go back to the sprint race.
Yes.
Okay? Let's go back to the sprint race and see what happens. Hamilton knew, because of the sprint race, one, for the most part, the Red Bull was fastest on every other part of the track, except for the Wellington straight going into
high
Cops.
speed.
Okay? Because they trimmed the car that had less downforce. That was a part of the track that Mercedes car was faster than the Red Bull. Hamilton knew because of the sprint race that he had to beat Max going into Cops and take the lead. If he took the lead, he had a better chance of beating Max because he can just go off into the sunset because obviously you have no turbulent air if you're leading the race. So Hamilton knew that. Second factor is that anytime that these guys have gone wheel to wheel, I think Imola was one of them. And Barcelona, obviously Max is always going to be aggressive. Max will
super aggressive.
Will take you to that finite point, up to the point where he can bully you off the track, but he won't. And everybody knows that, right? So Hamilton being in second place in the championship and having to have backed out those 2 times in order to avoid a collision.
And didn't work for him.
Yeah, he's always come in second. So this is the point where 1, he has to beat Max to Cops. 2, he has to make sure that next time Max tries to bully him off the track, even though he didn't do it on purpose,
I know what you're saying.
he has to make a statement. Dude, you can't just turn into me like that because then now we both have an issue if we both crashing out. Now you're the championship leader. If you crash out, what happens is that you lose out to me if you don't crash me out. You get what I'm trying to tell you?
Of course.
And that's exactly what happened. Not that Max did it on purpose. Not that Hamilton did it on purpose, because I think that was the narrative that Red Bull was going to, especially after the race with all the comments coming from Horner and from Helmut Marko and from Max too on social media. Not that he did it on purpose, but it was to make a statement. Dude, you're not going to bully me around. I'm the champ. This ain't over yet.
So whose fault was it?
It was a racing incident. It was a racing incident because you also see Max put the car in a position to defend. After you put that car going into that braking zone, you can't make another move. Mm-hmm. Max did kind of make another move going into the inside. I don't know if he saw Hamilton, or maybe he said, "Dude, I'm coming in no matter what." But if you're the championship leader,
you got to watch out for
you need to watch out for that because you're leading the championship. And we've seen Lewis Hamilton do this multiple times the past few years, being smart about it.
Look at the difference it made.
Yeah, look at the difference it made. Now, is Hamilton, yes, he has fault in it because obviously he did cause that collision. Mm-hmm. He did take a tighter line. It was very close going in. And remember, again, the car on the inside has to brake first. So that's why it almost seemed like Max went ahead of him, right? Mm-hmm. Max went ahead of him, but they were right there. It was very close, even though I still think Max had that corner. But I don't see anything that was super wrong. The only thing that went wrong was that the car understeered and he kind of lost control of the car a little bit. Hamilton, we're talking about Hamilton. And the wheel went into Max. Now, what saved Hamilton was that what saved Hamilton was a red flag. Because why? He had
what saved
Hamilton was the red flag because even
they couldn't figure out what kind of damage he had.
He only had small damage,
body damage,
body damage on his wing, but he had a cracked rim.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
and Mercedes said if they didn't have that red flag, they couldn't fix that issue. Oof. He would have been DNF also.
But if he had a cracked rim, wouldn't you just pit and switch the tires?
Yeah, but I mean,
it could have been a puncture. It could have been.
It could have been.
No meaning for them to figure it out.
I know he had a cracked rim, but I don't know if there was any other damage. I know Mercedes said it would have been a DNF.
Gotcha. Okay. No, right? It probably would have been caused.
Yeah.
You're not able to see it while the car is running.
Yeah, exactly.
He probably would have blown out.
But they were able to. It was a cracked rim, and I think there was something else. I don't know if they mentioned.
They even asked Bottas to pull alongside to see if he sees any damage.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Bottas is not going to be able to see a cracked rim.
It would be tough. So. Yeah. I want to go back to the incident.
So even if he does continue, even if they put it, he's still at the back.
He probably would have crashed out.
Yeah, he's still at the back.
Let's talk about that incident a little more.
Yeah, because we haven't seen your point yet.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the red flag.
We already have red flags.
Yeah. That's what you were talking about. So we saw and Karun Chandok did a great job of showing, oh my God, Max turned back. Karun Chandok in the super slow-mo. Oh my God, Max turned the wheel. his car was going fast. He was outside of the optimal line. He couldn't be on the optimal line
Max.
to be able to catch that turn.
Max.
He was on, yes,
Okay.
Max.
Okay.
He
go
was
ahead.
outside.
Right.
He was not on the optimal line to take the turn on the inside corner of Cops.
Right.
What would happen if he didn't try to turn back in? He'd go off the track.
Mm-hmm.
He's not thinking about Hamilton. He's like, holy crap, let me correct so I don't go off the track. I think that at that point, we know that the Red Bull car is better aerodynamically. We assume, based on what we see, right? So maybe he overestimated how well he'd be able to do on the outside of that turn, and that he would still be able to stay planted enough that he would be able to, pull it back in, stay on track. I feel like that was kind of the correction that pushed him right into Hamilton. So I want to address one thing that Yancey said. I was like, man, really? Like, you guys really think that Verstappen is so aggressive, right? I want to point out, Max Verstappen, his last penalty for an infringement was 2018 in Japan. 2018 in Japan when he pushed out Kimi Räikkönen, right? Let's go back. Austria, 2019. Actually, no. Let's go in reverse order. Britain, just past weekend, Hamilton, 10-second penalty. Russia, 2020, 10-second penalty for the practice starts. Remember, he was...
Yes.
The practice starts. We'll fault that to the team. Italy, 2020, 10-second stop and go for ignoring 2 flashing red lights and going into the pits.
That was a Monza.
Austria, 2020, receives 5-second penalty for colliding with Alex Albon. Almost the exact same accident. Crazy, right? It's amazing how we forget about these things. Austria, 2020, receives 3-place grid drop for ignoring yellow flags during qualifying. Brazil, 2019, 5-second penalty for colliding with Alex Albon, again in the almost the exact same crash. Germany, 2019, 5-second penalty for cutting pit lane entry. In. Remember that? Austria, 2019, 3-place grid penalty for impeding Kimi Räikkönen during qualifying.
What
I'm
does
going to
it have
repeat.
To do with aggressiveness.
Hit Alex Albon twice.
Okay.
Max's last penalty, 2018 in Japan. I just went through 2021, 2020, and 2019, where we're talking about collisions with Albon. And if we're talking about not just aggressiveness, but also just kind of being like not as careful a driver. The practice start thing, he collided with Max Verstappen this past weekend, ignoring yellow flags. That to me is more of an unsafe driver than Max Verstappen, no? I just read you the facts.
When you raise those facts,
yeah, but that's fine. But I mean, we also complain. But we also complain about the stewards and how they give penalties that shouldn't be deserved. So how many of those are deserved or not? That's up to them. That's up
like
to
the yellow flag one, whatever.
Yeah, or even going in the pit lane. That's not during the wheel-to-wheel battle. So I mean, you have a good point, but I wouldn't say that. If you look at overall Hamilton's career, Hamilton has never been that driver that is over aggressive at any point. When Max has been super aggressive, and mind you, he's changed that up to some point. But also, we've also seen that when anybody tries to overtake Max, he pushes the limit up. Maybe that's what he's good at. He's good at pushing to the limit where you can push out a driver to the point where he doesn't get a
going to the point.
He doesn't get a penalty.
Going to the facts that Wells pointed out to justify his case. I think what doesn't help Max is the aggression that gets played out is his burst. As far as like when he gets mad or when something happens to him, the way he comes out. Hamilton doesn't do that.
Right.
Hamilton's very calm. But the numbers, like the evidence doesn't lie. Like, he's been.
Yeah, I mean, because you have a point, but you don't, because we also complain about how the stewards give out penalties.
Yeah, but in all of Hamilton's cases, those penalties might more than 3/4 of them were justified.
Yeah,
we saw,
but he still wins championships.
Yeah.
We saw. Never did I think I would get Yancey defending Lewis Hamilton, but here we are.
I'm surprised you're trying to trash Lewis Hamilton too. Like, I thought,
aren't you a Mercedes fan?
Yeah, like, what's going on over here?
Because we're objective here, Ruben.
I get and I don't get what you're saying about all the penalties that they're decided to be dished out. We've seen that they've taken a very hard line this whole season. From Austria, we saw it multiple times. We saw it literally this weekend during the sprint qualifying with George Russell and Carlos Sainz, as we talked about before. We saw Lewis Hamilton in very, very similar incidents with Alex Albon receive penalties as well. It's hard for me to sit here and be like, oh, well, to listen and be like, oh, yeah, the stewards, they just give out penalties whenever they want. No, these are very, very similar incidents where something has happened and the stewards have consistently given a penalty for those types of infractions.
So, do you think
But I
Toto's email was trying to hide all those facts?
We didn't even get to that. Dude. That's so crazy. So anyway, my whole thing is that I think it was a racing incident.
I listen from what I see on track, and obviously you want to read out the penalties and stuff. I'm more eyeballing. I see.
So like the evidence is there.
Yes, he went blank.
You just oh man.
Yes.
Yes, he went blank.
You're going with your gut, right? That seems to be
Going with my
a
gut.
tradition here. You're going with your
taking
gut.
Ruben's advice.
Yeah, going with your gut. This is
I've
unbelievable.
always seen Max as super aggressive when anybody's trying to overtake him. Always seen that. We
not only Max, though.
That's every driver.
Yeah.
We barely see that with Lewis.
Dude, we even saw that with Ocon.
Yeah.
We've barely
When
seen
trying
that
to
with Lewis
blame
because
himself.
Lewis has always been out front. This is the first time we've seen Lewis trying to, literally fighting from behind to get ahead.
Rosberg?
Of everybody. Well, that I've seen.
Gotcha.
So, Max, to me, I think can be very aggressive, but he's very good at pushing the line to the point where he doesn't get a penalty. But can it scare off other drivers if they're right beside him? Yes. And at some point, it has scared. It definitely has scared off Vettel. We've seen that before.
Scared off Leclerc, scared off Kimi Räikkönen,
Yeah.
scared off Hamilton
And
himself.
scared off Hamilton. And Hamilton this race said, "No mas."
And Ocon paid for it.
So I wanna try and understand before I get back to the thing, to the incident again. I want to try and understand what you guys are saying. You're saying that somebody like Max that kind of pushes so much, but doesn't get the penalty. He's overly aggressive. It's hard for somebody like that.
No, I didn't say overly aggressive. I said he's aggressive.
Okay, so he's aggressive versus a guy like Lewis Hamilton. It's harder for somebody like Max somebody like what we just talked about, pushes, drivers around, doesn't get the penalties, kind of works within the limits. It's harder for him to get a championship over the course of a whole season.
To get a championship?
To win the championship over the course of a whole season. Because of his style to drive?
No, I wouldn't say that at all. I think that's just his style of driving. Just the same way I think like Lewis is more of a finesse driver. He's very good at overtaking. He's very good at staying ahead and being ahead. And he's also very good on managing his tires. It's a different style of driving, and you're seeing two different styles of driving clash.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
What if I switch the names?
Do you see Verstappen being the one to dethrone Hamilton? May not be this year, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, eventually it'll happen. I don't doubt that at all.
What if I switch the names, right? And we're talking about somebody who pushes the limits, whatever, little aggressive, just goes right up until the penalty line but doesn't get one, right? And then another driver who's kind of really his main challenger, etc. And I switch the names from Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen to Michael Schumacher and Mika Häkkinen, right?
Yeah.
We've talked about how Max has that Michael Schumacher-esque, like, just attitude, get in people's faces.
Yeah. So you could definitely win a championship that way. Absolutely. And Michael Schumacher was super aggressive.
Wellington went back there, dude.
Yeah.
I'm bringing the heat today. You see that?
Yeah.
Jeez.
You give him enough time.
Whoa.
Who'd win in a fight? Me or Batman? 3 days prep time.
3 days prep time.
Yeah, but we've seen it, but we also seen Senna that way. I mean, what we've seen
That's
Senna.
another one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Senna versus Prost.
I would never say that Max wouldn't win a championship. No, I'm just saying he's aggressive. Would I say he's overly aggressive? He has been, yeah, absolutely. But I think he's honed that down to being aggressive enough. Aggressive enough where people will think about overtaking him.
The facts that was brought up earlier has shown that he has matured compared to what he was before.
Absolutely.
So we got to give him credit for that. But it doesn't help Hamilton, all these facts.
So, I mean, to me, like I said, I consider it a racing incident. I don't think that it's as diabolical on either side. I think that if you put yourself in each driver's head, Hamilton, like you specifically said, he needed to hit that line, come out of cops as fast as possible so he doesn't lose the whole race right there on lap 1.
Right.
Max Verstappen on the outside of that. I don't even know. Karun Chandhok, the cars pulled up not even fully next to each other, but he was very fast to say, oh, look, you could see the Mercedes there. But when you're in the middle of a turn as fast as cops and you're trying to make sure you don't fly off of the track, I don't know if he really saw the guy, to be 100% honest.
You probably didn't, to be honest with you, because you can't see anything behind you anyways. And especially if they're right next to you like that.
Yeah.
So, but he knew he was around because he's been fighting him, the whole way through the track.
So what Mike should have done was guesstimate. Oh, Lewis might.
And that was going to be the last. Honestly, that was going to be the last overtaking opportunity that Lewis would have.
Until maybe pitting.
Yeah. So
then
Max,
we come up
but
with
Max
strategy.
would know that. Max would know that as well. I don't. Like I said, I don't think Max. I think it was more Lewis's fault, but it wasn't completely his fault. It's a racing incident. It's the first lap. It's for the title, and you've seen drivers, get into these collisions where they don't want to give an inch when they're fighting for the championship. Senna, Prost, Schumacher, and Villeneuve. You've seen it throughout history, so it's the way it's gonna be, and there's nothing out of the ordinary about this. Things just got better for us, baby. This ain't over yet.
So the immediate reactions afterwards, after the whole incident, whatever, Max literally flies like a missile into the barriers. 51 Gs was the deceleration force at the impact, which is bananas.
Mm-hmm.
Christian
Car
Horner
was destroyed.
Christian Horner and the Red Bull, I'm calling it the Red Bull race director, I forgot the guy's name. They were on the horn right away to Michael Massey. Oh my God, what a disaster. Hamilton, you never go up the inside of cops.
You never put a wheel in there.
Yeah, you never put a wheel there.
That's such a bad argument. But
Toto Wolff, Michael, we just sent you the diagrams of where the cars were. Can you check your email? Toto, I don't check my email during a race. What do you guys think of
The soap opera.
the politics right away? Boom, 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 just coming out like
The drama behind it.
that was so good. That was so funny.
yeah, I mean, they're not lobbying the stewards because obviously it's the stewards that make the decision.
But at that point, it didn't look like it was a Stewards because they just gang up on Michael.
Yeah,
Mike,
because they're
you see Michael Corleone or something?
because the only person that they can politic with is Michael Massey.
Gotcha.
Right.
Because
the stewards don't have the
the stewards. I mean, the only thing, let's say, the official role of Michael Massey, one of the roles of Michael Massey during the race is that if they see something, they can report it to the stewards, and the stewards will take a look at it and make a decision.
Gotcha.
But I mean, obviously, in an incident like that, I don't think Michael Massey has to tell anything to the stewards. They're going to investigate it to see who was at fault.
He did answer. I don't know if it was to Horner or Toto that he said, "Hey, look, if you want to just run up on the board, it's being investigated.
Right, and that's
You're
it.
welcome to come up if you want to, but it's just being
Yeah,
investigated."
but Michael Massey is not going to present this is like lobbying in politics. Michael Massey is not going to give evidence to the stewards.
I just got an email.
Yeah, I just got an email from Toto.
Here you go.
Can you
Stop
please
the
check this
presses.
out?
Yeah, run into the courtroom. Oh my God.
I mean,
Put 5 more minutes in the red flag so we could look at this email.
but it's the best thing that F1 has done this year is introduce or let us hear radio from the teams to the FIA, because we've gotten such insight as to, even during a race, in the heat of a race, the politics that goes on in the background. I thought it was
that's
actually
dope.
pretty cool. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Christian Horner is, I think he's just a troll, the troll king.
Yeah. I mean, his argument that
King.
I think his argument that no one ever puts a wheel inside cops.
hell outta
It's
here,
like,
dude.
come on, dude. Like, how many? You've seen plenty of overtakes there. You saw Lewis do it twice after the red
Afterwards, yeah.
flag, and he got the overtakes done clean. I mean, these things happen. It's a racing incident, especially when you're talking about lap 1. Eventually this was going to happen. It happened, and the stewards thought that obviously they never said, like, it's not like when the similar incident with George Russell and Sainz in the sprint qualifying, they mentioned in their ruling that the person that was completely at fault was George Russell, and they gave him a 3-place grid penalty. In the decision that came out after that incident with Verstappen and Hamilton, they didn't put blame fully on either Verstappen or Hamilton. It was a racing incident, but they did assign some of the blame to Hamilton, and accordingly, they gave him a 10-second penalty. Now, is it enough? Obviously that's up to them.
We will see it as the year progresses.
So
that's up to them. But they did give him a penalty, and usually a 10-second penalty will,
that's like the medium penalty.
Yeah, exactly. It's not the least.
So do you think it was too harsh or too soft, the penalty?
I think it was just right.
I think it was just right too. I think that it's in line with, guys, we want to see racers make it to the end because that is our product. And if you guys keep doing this crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we saw Helmut Marko right away ask for a 1-race ban. A little too much.
Yeah.
Right? He wanted to make up for the
Wouldn't expect anything less from Red Bull anyways.
Right. We saw Verstappen on social media. I'll read the quote from him. First of all, I'm glad I'm okay. It was an impact at 51G, but feeling better. Obviously, very disappointed with being taken out like this. The penalty given does not help us in any way and doesn't do justice to the dangerous move Lewis made on track. Watching the celebrations after a race while still in the hospital is disrespectful and unsportsmanlike behavior, but we move on. What the heck did he expect?
What penalty on this guy's home track?
What penalty?
Not only a penalty, but the celebration.
What penalty did he expect? It would make it even.
If the tables had turned, Max would have been celebrating the win.
Especially if it's his home track.
Exactly. So I mean, it's not unsportsmanlike. One, Hamilton straight up through the radio, through his engineer, asked, "Is Max okay?"
Yeah.
Okay. Title rival, mind you, things get heated. Is Max okay? That's one. Second, again, obviously in Red Bull's eyes, Hamilton is fully to blame for that.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's a debate still raging on. Nobody really knows who was to blame for it. So we can't really assign blame anywhere.
There was an email, by the way.
Yeah. And
showing
exactly what happened.
And the stewards did give Lewis Hamilton a 10-second penalty.
And I don't think if we keep talking about this,
we're not going to come to any.
I just look. I mean, it's at the end of the day, right? Take everything outside. Stepping outside of this race, the only thing I would like to see is for Lewis Hamilton in these instances to be a little more careful. And it sounds crazy to say about Lewis Hamilton, right? I mentioned earlier, twice already with Albon, now with Max Verstappen. We want to see these people racing, right? Albon actually both times I think was going to overtake Hamilton. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Max Verstappen, whatever. I wanted to see the race, but it is what it is. It just sucks that it's already happened 3 times, and all 3 times against a Red Bull driver. Maybe that's what Marco was thinking.
I don't know. It just makes for interesting and better racing to me.
Especially this year.
Yes.
Because
it ain't over yet.
The race between the two teams are so
all we need is one DNF. That's what Toto Wolff said last week, and then boom.
This ain't over yet. And we said it last week too.
And
this is not over yet.
It was not a reliability DNF that we're still waiting for.
Waiting for. That might happen now because
and everybody has been saying that eventually if Max and Lewis, especially if they're fighting for the title, go wheel to wheel, this was going to happen. Why have they been saying it? Not because they have a magic 8 ball predicting the future. No, because this is what always happens when you have 2 drivers that are closely matched. Nope. For the most part, you're going to have a collision. The odds are you're going to have a collision.
Nope. I'll tell you 2 drivers I have not.
Who?
Lando and Charlie. They race together all the time and they never crash. Anyway,
they're not fighting for the championship.
The one last thing I wanted to talk about with this whole thing was the whole. It sucks to even talk about it. The whole racism thing. I wasn't too clear as to what exactly was said to Hamilton, whatever, but everybody came out against it on social media.
I saw some screenshots and blatant racism, using the N-word, using the monkey emoji, using the gorilla emoji, using the shit. I mean, well, yeah, whatever. Doodle emoji.
Chocolate ice cream.
Yeah.
Chocolate ice cream.
I mean, it's blatant. It was. I think that there was some effort by the social media platforms to clean some of it up because I didn't see it myself, but I did see screenshots of other people posting of what was going on. And yeah, there's no place for that. We're fighting. This is sport. Everybody's competing against each other. Everybody's fighting each other, but we're fighting each other on the track. And where you come from, or your background, or the color of your skin, should never enter the discussion, because we're all human beings at the end of the day. It was disgusting from what I saw, and it sucks that we still have to talk about this day and age. And if you ever want a justification for why we race as one ceremony at the beginning of every Grand Prix,
The Hamilton Commission.
and why Lewis Hamilton created the Hamilton Commission, and why he has been so outspoken about this, especially after what happened with George Floyd, that was evidence of why. And also the Hamilton Commission did come out obviously found a lot of discrepancies between the jobs that, people who hold jobs in F1, as far as there is literally little to none minority representation in the jobs in F1, which they definitely have to work on. And then, subsequently you saw F1 having, Formula One management with an effort to hire more people of color or train people for those kinds of jobs.
I think it did not interest me, so I didn't even look around for that. Like it was just, if I was to feed my energy into it, I'd be wasting my time. So I didn't see a single post. I saw the post that people were making against them. Yeah. I did not look into seeing what was said, what was sent out, what emoji. I don't have time for that crap. So
I agree.
Yeah, I mean,
and I think
none of us do, but we can't. But we also have to acknowledge that it exists.
No. You what I say is, it does exist, and you fight it with justification. Get yourself ready to be at that upper level jobs and all that other stuff. So when it comes to opportunity, you fit for it and you take it. That's it. And hey, look at Lewis Hamilton. He was a first color driver. He's at the top of his game. The GOAT.
The issue is that
I'm just saying what I'm saying.
Right,
I'm not looking at the whole spectrum.
Yeah, but the issue is also that the opportunity is not given, and that's what we have to start doing, is giving opportunities to people that clearly are qualified but don't get those opportunities for the jobs. So
that's a whole different topic already.
Right. So moving on.
There you go.
Driver of the day. Yes, hit it.
Charlie! Woo! Wow. Man.
First place most of the race.
Listen, let me tell you something. After that collision, we obviously had the red flag. The person who was ahead was Charles Leclerc, my boy Charlie. But I wasn't getting my hopes up because I already knew that the cars behind them, especially that you had Hamilton and Bottas right behind them, who were clearly faster than the Ferrari, we're eventually going to overtake him. But as the race went on, and we saw that Lewis Hamilton would kind of get close to him, but he said it over the radio that once they get close to him, the air is so turbulent they couldn't overtake. It was very hard to follow. And we saw that eventually he kept elongating that gap. I thought, damn it!
He's going to do it.
He's going to do it. Charlie's going to pull out a miracle. We're going to get a Ferrari victory on the 75th anniversary of Ferrari's first win in F1.
And what happened?
He didn't win. Eventually, the faster car won.
Listen.
But he did. But you know what? To get second place in Silverstone, this was not expected. Testament to how good the Ferrari car has been, how good of a driver.
How good is being developing.
Yes.
Getting up to the task.
How good of a driver Leclerc is, and also Sainz.
Yes. Hit the drop.
So
Carlos Sainz battled back from 11th place finish in the sprint race to a 6th place finish during the race.
yeah,
Dude has acclimated so well to the car. It's unbelievable.
I think probably the best driving duo right now
Yeah.
on the grid.
Yeah. I agree with you on that.
Driving duo, not just I'm talking driving duo.
But there's something I want to point out. Obviously, not to take nothing away from Charles Leclerc, the way he drove and stuff like that. During the restart, I was actually a little mad that just saying, why in the hell is Lewis Hamilton not taking this guy right out of the start? Because obviously that's what I was expecting. You know,
Yeah.
hey, there's going to be a restart. Lewis Hamilton will overtake Charles Leclerc and going to run away with it. That didn't happen. And then it was just the pace that the Ferrari car got from those tires. It was just they couldn't even believe it. But wait, we have spoken about this before, where your number 2 driver or your second driver from your team has a lot to do with the development of the race and the finishing of the race. So imagine if Sergio Perez was in the position he's supposed to be, meaning not far from Max or right next to Max. Max
he wins
crashed,
that race.
that would have been.
Yep.
Perez
There's
wins
no
that
way
race.
Hamilton would have been
would-
able to catch the Red Bull in front there.
Yeah, and then we don't know. I mean,
Yes or no?
we don't know what kind of damage that car had after that collision. Obviously, the car wasn't
Max's,
at 100%. I'm talking
Hamilton's
about
car.
Hamilton's car wasn't at 100%.
But
Bottas-
seeing from what happened in Baku,
Yeah.
that Hamilton pretty much could not get through, with Paris. If that it would have been pretty much a similar situation now, where probably Hamilton would have caught up to Paris, but not been able to pass,
Yeah, but
and then it would have been a Red Bull.
so here's the
Red
thing:
Bull.
we saw that Bottas had to pit earlier than
normal.
because he had to cover off Lando because Lando was right behind him. So he had to cover up. So at the end of the race, we saw that Bottas couldn't push as much as he could because he was in
His
tire
tires were
management.
efficient.
He had to manage the tires, which why he couldn't even catch up to Leclerc at that point. So again, if we see that Red Bull, which was clearly faster, that Red Bull pushing in that top 3, it would have been a very different result because then you would have had other drivers having to cover him, and obviously Max went off, could have possibly won the race.
And also, could you imagine Lando having a clean pit? That would also change the ending of the race
yes,
when it
because he
came with Bottas and his position.
He did have, I think it was a 6-second stop
6
as opposed
second
to like
penalty.
a 2.
Or stop, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it was an interesting race overall.
And also going back to the Sainz Leclerc thing, have you seen also the Sainz and Leclerc and like just neck to neck in qualifying?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
They're like so. I mean,
very
not only just them two. Obviously, every car past the top 3 or top 4. Like they're like super neck to neck. But obviously, team wise, these guys are just overshooting each other by milliseconds. And
I would say, for example, you can compare.
I think Carlos Sainz is doing way better than expected.
Yeah,
as being
absolutely. He's definitely doing way better than expected. You see, I would compare the qualifying between
qualifying duo.
The qualifying duo between Leclerc and Sainz with what you see most times. I would say with Hamilton and Bottas, where Hamilton always ekes out Bottas, but Bottas is right there with him. So. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm happy, especially going into the Hungaro ring. I feel because we know that the Ferrari is very good in those slow corners, and the fact that they can pull out this result at Silverstone, which is super high speed track, very flowy track, that Ferraris not only did they go well in qualifying and in the races.
McLaren better watch out.
Yeah, and then you have 2 drivers in top form.
McLaren better watch out.
Yeah, but McLaren is also bringing upgrades to that.
I know, yeah, but I'm saying,
So-
it's showing that McLaren is not going to run with it.
Listen, we have two fights that are gonna go down to the end, and that's between Red Bull and Mercedes
for the
for
championship.
the constructor championship, and we have Ferrari and McLaren fighting for third place.
For the best of the rest.
Yeah, so it should be fun. It's a fun season so far, guys. Can't complain.
The McLaren duo, we saw Daniel Ricciardo, Lando Norris. Lando Norris finished fourth. Daniel Ricciardo finished fifth. This was actually Daniel Ricciardo's first fifth place, top 5 finish the whole year.
Yes.
Lando Norris has been popping. Yeah.
He needs that.
Yeah. Lando Norris has been popping them out like whatever. Bubblegum, I guess. And I don't know what to say.
That was actually pretty good.
Yep.
Pop, pop, pop.
Finally, we see Daniel Ricciardo get in gear.
Get into where he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
You will see.
What did he do last week? He's been getting better.
He has slowly but surely getting better. As I've mentioned before, and I'll
His luck is
say
turning.
it again, he doesn't seem like a driver who is down on himself. He's just getting at it, and he knows that he's a good driver. He's a 7-time race winner. He knows that eventually he'll get back into form. It's disappointing that he hasn't gotten into form quicker.
Mm-hmm.
However, we're going in the right direction, and we'll soon see Ricciardo up there getting similar results. I don't know if he's going to beat Norris. Norris is driving lights out, and we all know that confidence is everything with drivers, but Ricciardo's confidence is coming back. You see it in his demeanor, which is very important. This is why I say that we're in a very good fight between Ferrari and McLaren, because now you're going to have 2 driver duels which will be at the top of their game, and their cars are very similar.
Like Toto said, all it takes is a DNF.
Yep.
Yeah. So, all right. Speaking of that, we had the Max DNF. We had Sergio Perez no points finish. We had Lewis Hamilton first. Valtteri Bottas third. What does that mean? Red Bull Racing Honda constructors 289 points. Mercedes 285. Now we're down to a 4-point lead for the constructors.
Ain't over yet.
Go on to the other set of teams. McLaren 163. Ferrari 148.
15
point difference. 15
Right
point difference.
there.
I'm going to call out the next branch here. AlphaTauri, Aston Martin, Alpine. 49, 48, 40. Right there. So it's a battle for first, battle for third, battle for fifth. And then
Man, what happened to AlphaTauri, man?
they're just, I don't know.
Consistency.
Yeah, we talk about it all the time.
Would you say that they're the most disappointing team on the grid so far?
No, Aston
No,
Martin.
Aston Martin.
By far, Aston Martin.
Yeah.
Dude, when they're talking about bringing the old livery to CB changes his luck.
They were trying to be,
but
trying to be fighting for third.
But the thing is that, for example, you see how Racing Point was last year when you have high expectations.
Mm-hmm.
I think that AlphaTauri, obviously how quick that car has been, and we see, Gasly driving pretty good. It's just, I guess we expected more of them, and it's disappointing to see that they're just dropping out of that race because we really thought that they could compete with Ferrari and McLaren.
Could we say that even the team was not ready for how good of a pace the car brought out?
Yeah, I mean the inexperience falls into that too. Yeah, man. And we saw that last year with Racing Point, which is now Aston Martin. So.
Championship. Max Verstappen 185. Lewis Hamilton 177. 8-point difference. Lando Norris 113 in third place. Valtteri Bottas 108. 5-point difference now. Finally.
Mm-hmm.
Sergio Perez 104.
He's still
Valtteri
there,
Bottas 108.
Yeah.
Charles Leclerc 80. Carlos Sainz 68. Daniel Ricciardo 50. Things are starting to get tight, right?
Yep.
Will Charles Leclerc be able to catch Bottas, Sergio Perez, and Lando Norris? That's really, it's separated by 33 points across the four of them. I don't know.
That'll
We'll
be
see.
interesting.
That'll be tough to do as well.
Yeah. Last thing that I kind of wanted to talk about from this race was, how about your boy, Fernando Alonso. We saw him crazy start at the sprint race qualifying. We saw him finish 7th in the race itself, behind the McLarens, behind the Ferraris, which is kind of where we expect that car to be. It's only going up from here, right?
He's having fun, man. He looks like the Fernando of old. He's a old, witty driver who knows how to race. And what I love about Fernando Alonso is that no matter what car you give him, he is going to get the best out of that car. I don't think that the Alpine is as good as the results that he is getting out of that car, which is why I think ultimately the difference in that fight between the constructors, which you have AlphaTauri, Aston Martin, and Alpine, I think the difference in that fight will ultimately be Fernando Alonso. Because I don't even think maybe the only other driver that can compete with him would be Vettel, even though Gasly has been driving well. I think Fernando Alonso is a better driver than Vettel. And I think that he is dragging that team, putting it on his back, and dragging that team to the fight for 5th.
I think Alonso is enjoying himself, and I think also the expectations coming into this year from that car is not what he's getting out of it. Meaning he's overperformed where they pretty much sold him on where the car was going to be.
It's a 3-year-old chassis, man.
No, this is what I'm saying.
No, I got you, yeah.
So, for example, they did not tell him, no, it's a championship winning car. We're going to go for... Mm-hmm. They told him, no, this car, we're lucky if we can, every weekend win the top 10.
Yeah.
So he's super stoked that he's put it in 7th. Mm-hmm. Because, no, I'm beating the expectations from the car, so I'm doing awesome. And he's also enjoying himself.
Right.
Come on, the attitude that he has from here to where he was in McLaren is freaking night and day.
And he's doing it on all facets, qualifying.
Yep.
A great starts, managing tires. I mean, the guy is doing it all, and he's driving like Fernando Alonso. And when Fernando Alonso is driving the way he's always been driving, he's great, man. And this is why I was excited to see him back in F1 again, because these are the kind of performances that he was put in an even worse car when he was with McLaren. Mm-hmm. And we'll see him make the difference in that race for 5th.
On him, I can't wait for next year. Since the cars are going to be more competitive, more more
if
closer
the cars
together.
are going to be as close as they say they're going to be, hell yeah, that's going to be fun.
Boys, anything else coming out of this thing?
What did you guys think about the new car?
I was going to say the same thing. Gotta wait for it with a livery.
Yeah,
that livery was horrible.
Yeah, it looked like a
Did you guys like the look?
Look like an Indy car.
Nothing wrong with an Indy car.
No, I think we should have those translucent colors that it had and stuff like that. It did not let you see the details. That's why I say we have to now wait and see with a livery so we could see more.
Do you guys think does it look like it's going to be a car that you have closer racing in?
Oh, it will be, because that's what the computer tells them.
Question. How can I tell?
That's what the computer's telling them. That's what they're hoping to do.
Engineer and the aerodynamicist?
What am I going to do? Blow at the TV and be like, oh, yeah, the fucking no way.
You blow smoke.
Yeah.
and see the smoke, no, he blows on the screen.
Anything.
Okay, it's going all over the place. Yeah. So I guess the setup is wrong.
It looked kind of cool. The only thing I didn't like was the front of it. It looked like Alf.
Okay, what?
Like Alf. You don't remember Alf?
All right.
Big nose. The big nose, yeah.
Wow. I got to look at the car now to see it. What does the car look like?
It look like Alf.
What is it? He's like, what am I going to do with these guys? Go ahead, Will.
Who would have thought that I would have heard a reference to Alf today? It's a 30-year-old show. On that note, at Jump to Start F1 on Twitter and Instagram. Comment, subscribe, leave reviews on. Sorry, I'm still thinking about Alpha. Why? Podcast platforms: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeart Radio, TuneIn, Stitcher, YouTube. Drop a like, subscribe, drop a comment, say what's up. That's it. See you guys next week for the Hungaroring preview.
Bye.
Bye.